name's William Wieting, and I produced this video to talk about algorithms and how we are all getting stuck in our echo chambers with every point of view that we have. And this is to show you the propaganda that you're being fed every day, not only on mainstream media, which has been demonized for many years, but also on new media, which you're on right now. The reason I'm wearing this is because normally my viewers that watch the videos see me with a cowboy hat on with an American flag behind me. Now, you would have been quick to judge this video and just moved on. Clicked it, nope, there's somebody with a cowboy hat on. He must be a conservative or a Trump supporter or a MAGA supporter. You know, really bad people, right? That's what they tell you. But we are now so reactionary in this world that we're in because of the internet and because of algorithms that we need to start to look at other points of views. So I knew you were going to look at it and click off. My viewers are like, what the heck? Will's bald? You know, this kind of thing. But please have an open mind as we move into this. You'll see me on set. Don't get don't freak out about it. Watch the content that's in this video so you can understand why it's so important to have different points of views. The reason I say, as a Christian, don't react, hang on, don't hang up, don't change that channel, that I say that I'm center, right-leaning, is because I don't want to be radicalized. My way of doing it is not, you're going to hell. No, it's about loving everybody, communicating with everybody, and being able to have ears to hear and eyes to see. So again, that's why you saw the thumbnail. You know, yeah, you could call it clickbait, but I wanted you to come in and start to actually look at things that you're being told about, yes, I'm going to say it, President Trump, and about people that are MAGA and how they're getting demonized. At least look at this video. Don't click off. The algorithms always go like this. First 45 seconds is the most important. But don't, if you're still here, I'm glad. Watch the video, see what I'm saying, and give me feedback if it makes sense to you. I'm glad, first of all, if you're a Democrat, you're liberal leaning, leftists are a little tough to deal with. But if you're here, I really appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, you can get on my case, you can hate me and all that stuff. Aim it at me, don't aim it at my viewers. But know this, I will show you respect until the cows come home. You know, that's a little pun. You know, we'll be wearing a cowboy hat soon. But please, watch the video with an open mind. Be understanding that we are all stuck in these algorithms. If you hate a yellow cat, then all you're going to see is hating yellow cats. That's an example. So here we go. Again, get ready for the cowboy hat, okay? Try not to judge. I warned you about the cowboy hat, American flag, okay? Now, I'm glad that you went past that point of me just talking to you and kind of gently introducing you to this content. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to a time in Germany. You probably know where I'm going already with this, but it's important to relate the propaganda of the 30s and the 40s in Germany to the propaganda we're being fed now in these modern times. So take a look at this video.
Goebbels was frustrated not to receive one of these positions, but he would not have long to wait. To mark the event, he oversaw a huge torch-lit parade in Berlin on the night of the 30th of January 1933, attended by approximately 60,000 supporters of the Nazis. It featured brigades of SS and SA members, the paramilitary branches of the Nazi Party, and would prefigure the military parades which would become ubiquitous in Germany for the next 12 years of Nazi rule. The new government moved quickly to consolidate its power. Punitive measures to repress the Communist Party and other parties of the left were quickly implemented in February 1933.
All right, let's listen to Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell and notice really carefully as they speak, look at the smirks on their faces and the smiles on their faces when they're about to share their feelings about the news. Remember, these talking heads are cheap labor, you know, even though they get a lot of money. They're cheap labor compared to doing investigative reporting. So what we've got now in the mainstream media, and most of the new media too, is everybody giving their opinions. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I give opinions too. But know this. Everybody's speaking from opinion. They're not reporting news. I put facts in because I don't want to do a correction video. And then I sprinkle in my opinion in there. But I'm not doing straight up propaganda like many are. Listen to this and try. I know it's hard for some of you that think the way I think to watch them, but it's important for people that believe that MSNBC is like important and the news and that's their echo chamber. I'm trying to point out the propaganda part of these channels. So let's take a look.
Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell, hosts of The Rachel Maddow Show and The Last Word right here on MSNBC. Rachel, I will say something. I am mad at myself for how surprised I was. I was mad at myself as the time went by, the 2.5 weeks, and I think a lot of people thought, and this was with informed speculation by people I respect, people who've clerked on the court, people who've been around the court, studied the court, know the court, there is no way they could take 2.5 weeks only then to say we're taking the case 7 weeks from now. What was your reaction to the order today?
I mean, I don't think you should be mad at yourself. I don't think you should be embarrassed. I think everybody sort of thought that was the only kind of decent explanation for how long they were taking, that they were going to not take up the case, that maybe Samuel Alito or one of the other real MAGA judges was going to be really mad about it, was going to write an angry dissent, was biding for as much time as he could because this was his last chance to insert delay, which of course is what Trump wants. I think that was, you know, if you think about the court as the Supreme Court of the United States and a rational actor and a decent one, that was a reasonable supposition, and it just turns out they're not that. And Chris, I feel you in terms of the emotion that you're bringing to this right now, and the sort of sense of urgency with which you're underscoring what this means. It's true. There just isn't any way around it. And I feel like for people who haven't been following this, if you want to know why there's a hair on fire reaction to this, if you haven't been following every interstitial, incremental bit of progress here, the important question here is not whether the Supreme Court is going to decide that Donald Trump and all presidents are immune from prosecution for crimes they committed while they were president. I mean, it would be fully insane for them to actually side with Trump here, right? Remember, this is the case where Trump's lawyer was asked by Judge Florence Pan in the appeals court, are you telling me that this guy that a president could order the assassination of his political rivals and there could be no prosecution for that? That would be okay? We'd have to let that go? Not only for the duration of his presidency, but for the duration of his life? That would be okay? And Trump's lawyers are basically like, yeah. So the idea that they're going to side with him on immunity is unthinkable and also beside the point. The conclusion that we can arrive at now based on what they have done without having to wait for the ruling is that they are ensuring that Trump will not face trial. And when they inevitably rule that presidents aren't immune from prosecution after they leave office, what that will tell Donald Trump, if by then he is president, is that he can never leave the office of the presidency. Right. And if he is voted out in 2028, he cannot leave office, and he is willing to he is welcome to commit any crimes he wants to, as long as he is still president, in order to ignore the result of that election and stay in power for life, because otherwise he's going to go to prison when he gets out. That is the way this is going to go unless the country votes Trump out, votes for Biden and against Trump in November.
Yeah, that point about the incentive structure produced by this is one that I hadn't even thought about, but it's very clearly correct. There's also, Lawrence, the point that Rachel made there, which I think is sort of interesting.
This next clip is going to sound very familiar, especially to those that supported President Trump in January 6th, 2021, that infamous day where everybody's going, it was an insurrection, it's an insurrection, it's an insurrection. Well, let's look at it in a different way. Let's look at it like people didn't have guns. A lot of people were walking through the Capitol with cameras, staying inside the ropes, like tourists. There were violent people at the Capitol. The FBI's recognized that at least one agent was there. They won't admit to how many. So the FBI has said that they had people in there disguised as Trump supporters, okay? At least one, but they won't give the number. So antagonizers were there to create a false flag operation, and then Nancy Pelosi and everybody in control. Nancy Pelosi was, she was in the Capitol. She was Speaker of the House at the time, and the Speaker of the House is over the chief of Capitol Police. And yes, she did actually cut the staff 2 days before January 6th. And then she also refused when President Trump asked for the National Guard to protect the Capitol. She refused. Come on. Now, if you think Nancy Pelosi's telling the truth, you're totally a Biden supporter, you have to admit that makes you go, am I right? Am I right? Okay. This next clip is going to help you see propaganda and how it was done back in the 30s and how similar it is today.
A fire at the Reichstag on the 28th of February was then used as a pretext for passing emergency legislation which briefly gave the government additional powers, and a snap Reichstag election was called for the 5th of March. Voter intimidation and fraud was employed in the resulting campaign, but the Nazis were still only able to win 44% of the vote, which translated into 288 seats in the Reichstag. This, however, was enough. On the 23rd of March 1933, the Nazis excluded the Communists and others from the Reichstag and intimidated several other parties in order to ensure that an enabling act was passed by an overwhelming majority through both houses of the Parliament. This enabling act decreed that the German Chancellor and his government could effectively suspend the government and rule by decree for a period of 4 years.
Now, if you can't see the similarities to what I'm saying, then I am going to say you're probably blinded by hate that you've been fed over many years around President Trump. He was the media's darling before he ran for president. Everybody loved him. He wasn't a racist, as they say. He wasn't many things. But once he became a Republican candidate and then won, that's when the TDS kicked in, Trump derangement syndrome. But you have to be able to have open eyes to listen to somebody like me or somebody else that is willing to give you both sides of the story. I just did an interview with James Walden. Again, he said something negative about President Trump. It's in the video. I'm not taking it out. I'm not editing for an agenda. My guests can say what they want to say, and we'll take a hit. I'll lose subscribers for it. It's okay. It's okay. If that's what happens, that's what happens. If people are too close-minded to hear information that doesn't fit their agenda or their narrative, I'm a big Trump supporter. There you go. It's out. It's out. But I'm going to leave it in, even when I take hits, because this format is going to tell the truth. So help me God. We might stay small. We might not get a lot of viewers because we're speaking the truth. If I was hyperbolic and saying the whole world was burning down, which actually James actually said something like that. But if I was saying it, then I'm just doing it for views and and I'm not. And also James comes through as very sincere. You'll see that in the upcoming video on Monday. So we have to unite. Liberals, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives need to see the threat that is happening to our country now. It's not about suppressing the other point of view. Liberals used to be people that would listen to all points of views. Now it's been taken over mostly because of the algorithms that I've been talking about. I mean, let's look at this countdown clock. Okay, you see this countdown clock right here? That's how many days are left till this election. That's why I'm always saying activate, activate. It's going to happen like that. It's going to happen like that. And suddenly we're going to be like, what happened? If you're a Democrat or a liberal and you've gotten to this point of the video, I know you're open-minded enough to hear me. Your freedom is at stake in this current environment. The government is out to take control of everything. There are very few there's a lot of wolves and there's a few sheep. And you want to be a wolf because you want it to control the narrative, but we can't let the wolf control the people. So what I'm saying is that we need to unite against tyranny, against the onslaught of the illegal immigration for votes coming in, against the oppression of President Trump because he's a candidate for president, against all this. Because trust me, what they're doing to President Trump right now, and you're like, wow, I'm glad it's not me, it's going to come to you. If we do not act now, we'll be looking back at this time in history and blame ourselves, and we'll have every right to do so. This is William Wieting reporting from MustangMedic. If you're still here, I'm grateful. And know that I am not going to stop looking for the truth. So help me God. Until next time.
If propaganda wins the people it wanted to win, it was presumably good. And if not, it was presumably bad. No one can say that your propaganda is too crude or low or brutal, or that it is not decent enough, for those are not the relevant criteria. Its purpose is not to be decent or gentle or weak or modest. It is to be successful. Thus, Goebbels' view was clear. The end always justified the means when it came to state propaganda.